story, a powerful story of self-reclamation and self-compassion. Seattle-based therapist Carol Odell is releasing a new book that recounts her own journey through unthinkable trauma. The book, Groomed, weaves together her childhood memories as the victim of a predatory horse trainer. Holly's down in the Art Lounge this morning with Carol to talk more about her journey and her brand new book.
Steve, thank you. And Carol, just want to thank you so much for coming on ARC Seattle and sharing your story with us and talking about your book. Talk a little bit about your journey and how it got you to write Groomed.
I'm a psychotherapist, and I decided to use my own story of trauma to offer that as a helping opportunity for people also in their healing journey. And not just from sexual abuse, but from other kinds of pain and trauma that people carry from their past. And instead of using a compilation of my own clients, because I've been a therapist for 41 years now, I decided to use my story as a way of sharing this.
How does sharing your story mark a significant new phase in your personal healing journey?
This is a good stretch for me. My clients are so inspiring in terms of the risk that they take and the vulnerability that they show all the time with me. And I thought I could do this too and put my story out there. And also writing this memoir was a way of me integrating the trauma and the story for myself so that I could offer it in the ways that I'm trying to do.
You had a moment of clarity, a wake-up call for confronting unprocessed trauma and some of its ripple effects. Why is it so important that people who experience trauma not only focus on healing themselves, but on repairing relationships?
Our unprocessed trauma can end up coming out sideways. And for me, for instance, when I was less connected with my own feelings, I got disconnected in the past, then I was less sensitive to my husband's feelings and his needs. And also because of what happened to me in the horse stables where I was sexually groomed, there was so much unpredictability that I brought forward this kind of need to control my external environment and drive to an outcome and make unilateral decisions and thinking that my way was the right way. And that was really harmful and constricting and limiting in my marriage. So doing that work and going back into processing that trauma actually gives me more agency and freedom in my life.
Yeah, because you didn't feel in control when this was being done to you.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
How can someone break harmful patterns after experiencing trauma?
There's a way that we can bring awareness to what has happened to us. And there's a difference. There's what's happened to us, and then there's what we do with what happens to us. And the ways that we've absorbed the messages, that can be brought to light more. We can bring a deeper understanding of how it's still operating in us. And that is a way to create some freedom of choice and also to change the responses from being reactive to being more authentic in the world.
Carol, we know you are a survivor, and there are so many other survivors out there who they're looking to reclaim their power. What are some simple steps people can take to do that, besides what you just mentioned, some real tangible things people can do to take their power back and feel in control?
Mostly when the trauma and abuse happens, we're isolated, or we're in this kind of emotional bubble. And so there are two things that I think are so important for survivors. One is to build community. Because when we can talk about it, when we can share our stories, which is part of what I'm trying to do, then we can heal in relationship. And that is incredibly important. The other thing is that our bodies hold the trauma, they get stuck in our bodies, and so movement is so important. And so when it gets triggered or stimulated, then some kind of movement, even if it's dance or kickboxing, which I used to do in between writing my memoir, is a way to express that and getting that out.
So get up and physically move. You're saying get up and physically do something.
Absolutely.
Real movement. Okay,
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit more about what people will find in your book.
The book toggles back and forth chapters between being at the horse stables where I was sexually groomed from the time I was 10 to 20. And again, that definition was so narrow back then that it wouldn't have been considered sexual abuse. And now, thankfully, that definition has expanded, and so I talk more about that in terms of what's included, but it's always a power. It's always a power differential. It's not actually about sex, it's about power. So those chapters go back and forth between also then me being in sessions with my own therapist, sitting in the other chair. And that's a way to show again the amount of work that is required in this process, but how helpful that can be.
Your experience, did that lead you to seek out the career you're in now in some way?
I think it did unconsciously.
Okay.
Unconsciously, I was trying to figure it out and figure out other people's stories as well, but certainly my own.
Yeah. What else do you hope people take away after reading this book?
I hope it gives them hope. Trauma informs our life, but it doesn't define who we are or who we're becoming. And I'm hoping that that's a hopeful message. And not just for survivors, but I hope that this book could also offer some opportunities for partners who are, you know, trying to support their loved ones that have been through trauma of some form or another.
Because so many partners don't know what to do and need some direction and some guidance as well.
Exactly, exactly. And it's hard to be on that side of that equation too.
Yeah. Carol, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story with me, and thank you for writing Girl Groomed, too.
I really appreciate that. And I just want to say that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And so this is perfect timing to bring more education and more dialogue to this. Thank you so much.
Where can people get your book?
On all the platforms, and actually it comes out tomorrow, which I'm very excited about.
Perfect. Carol, thank you so much. Steve, back to you.